Welcome to Alaska Weather, a production of Alaska Public Media and the National Weather Service, Alaska Region. Produced and broadcast daily from the studios of KAKM, Alaska Weather provides complete forecasts, public, marine, and aviation for all of Alaska. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
Alyeska Pipeline Service Company, Alaska's pipeline to the future, delivering oil today, sustaining operations for tomorrow, committed to safety, operating the 800-mile Trans-Alaska Pipeline since 1977.
The National Weather Service.
Hello everyone, and thanks again for joining us here for Alaska Weather this Tuesday afternoon. Looking at the satellite, you can see a fair amount of clouds still rolling into the southeast coast following the storm that went through yesterday afternoon. And conditions are becoming a little less showery, a little less rainy as time goes on. But we've had rainfall amounts anywhere from an inch to an inch and a half here, or up to an inch here across the southeast zone. Rain and snow this afternoon at Yakutat. Snow showers out here over the Gulf of Alaska in the colder air that's come down with the upper level trough that's heading eastward. There you can see the back edge of the trough right through here with the clouds. And so there are areas of snow extending from the Prince William Sound area all the way up into the eastern Arctic coast there. And some of that was a little on the heavy side, a little bit of a low pressure area forming there over the western Prince William Sound. So it looked like some pretty good snowfall amounts occurring over Montague Island, Knight Island there, right up through the south, right up into the Matanuska Valley and Palmer, but that began to diminish this afternoon. Clearing out here in the thinner clouds across Cook Inlet. Still overcast, but the clouds pretty thin, seeing a hazy sunshine this afternoon. A lot of sun here over the Bristol Bay area, and actually that extends up to the north as well. It was a fairly nice day with mostly sunny conditions and light winds extending all the way up into the northwest valleys, and even a lot of clear skies reported this afternoon out along the Arctic coast, except back here on the east side, west winds 15 to 25 miles an hour at the most today, with some areas of snow and clouds, a little lower conditions there. And you can see back out to the west here, that's the another batch of clouds out there, and that's due up to the coast tomorrow for some more rain. And that's kind of breaking away from a front that's weakening and stretching out there along the Bering Sea. But that has lifted northward up against the high pressure over the northern areas, and that's kicked the winds up, put the squeeze in the atmosphere. East winds gusting as high as 46 miles an hour at St. George, and about the same at St. Paul this afternoon, but all the precip to the south. And again, it's kind of a narrow hit and miss area of light snow. A little bit of that was seen along the Alaska Peninsula today, but quite light amounts. And next system farther out to the southwest. Rolling this through again, a couple of troughs rotating around the low here in the Gulf of Alaska. So that southwest flow decreasing the showers again throughout the afternoon hours. Now continue to decrease this evening, then probably shut off for a time before the next surge of moisture brings more rain and possibility of some higher winds along the southern southeast coast, but rain will be spreading northward with the main center here moving in mostly into the Queen Charlottes. That's going to produce, that should keep the strongest winds down over the Queen Charlotte Islands. Again, there's a chance of some gales there along the south coast, and that should spread an overrunning type precipitation across the entire area throughout the day tomorrow. And looking at the chart today, again from this morning, a couple of troughs here moving in, kind of consolidating as the showers interact with the coastline. End up with a solid area of clouds with, in some cases, continuous rain, but that all diminishing this afternoon. Again, decreasing showers here as the last one finally rolls through. This area of snow, low pressure there, western Prince William Sound, but snowfall amounts were quite varied and variable across this entire area, anywhere from 3 to 5 inches falling in some areas here in the heavier zones there across south central Alaska, and Prince William Sound, and anywhere from 1 to 3 inches. But that ranged from a trace to nothing at all in other areas. And a lot of sunshine again, high pressure, Bering Strait areas, actually Norton Sound, the entire northern Bering Sea dominated by high pressure, and that extends northward there up off the northwest Arctic coast. And here's this front, breakaway low right about that position. That's going to be moving eastward and then northeastward, spreading more rain into the southeast coast during the day tomorrow. And this will continue to weaken out in this area. And most of this system is going to slide by to the south, and that front will weakly be across the area tomorrow with possible small craft advisories, 20 to 25, 6, 7, 8 knots, and that's about it here for the central Aleutian areas with a little bit of moisture with that, but nothing too terribly strong. Still have this lingering low here in the Gulf of Alaska. That's going to keep snow showers there, mostly from about Prince William Sound eastward tonight, and then decreasing flurries in areas of light snow, gradually shutting off here from west to east, but still some areas of flurries all the way up to the eastern Arctic coast. High pressure over the interior now, so these temperatures will be dropping into the minus 20s to maybe minus 30 or so in the coldest areas over the north slope, even out toward the Arctic coast tonight. And those winds will be dropping off there on the east side. Not that they got all that strong today, but they'll become more light and variable like they were today back to the west. And light winds, clear skies all the way down into Bristol Bay, Kodiak Island. Winds kicked up a little bit today. Akiak had gusts of 40 miles an hour. Actually, that was early this morning. And those are coming down, will continue to diminish tonight. A lot of clear skies, light winds there with the precipitation back out along this very weak frontal boundary now over the Alaska Peninsula. So a day much like today, tonight, kind of a mixture. Could have light rain, drizzle, or fog, but very light amounts. And then the next system here making a turn to the northeast, and that will be moving in after the remainder of these showers come through. That'll be pushing in tomorrow, roughly somewhere along the coast here from Cape Fairweather on down. With if it tracks in as far north as this, you'll probably see some gale force winds there on the south coast. If it's a little farther to the south, then that'll be restricted to the Queen Charlottes. Either way, a lot of moisture is going to spread up with a chance of some mixed precipitation over the northern panhandle as it overruns the colder Arctic air that's sliding into the Yukon now. Rain heavy at times in over the southern areas. And fair skies, sunny skies here, Cook Inlet, Susitna Valley westward. That'll begin to spread into the Tanana Valley slowly. The back edge of this by this time tomorrow will actually be more along this trough axis with just some lingering flurries along the eastern border into the afternoon. And then another trough there grazing the western Arctic coast, mainly with some areas of lower flying conditions there. Here's this weakening front and another weak front there to the west. And then this low right in here looks like it'll develop much the same as the other one did and begin to push up to the northeast there on Thursday. And that's going to spread some more rain in over the panhandle, over the southern areas Thursday morning, and that should spread northward. But it looks like this will take off or take a track a little bit farther to the south. And so the heaviest rainfall will be down to the south, and definitely the strongest winds will be even south of that. But it looks like things will take a turn for the better, possibly, if you're tired of the rain anyway. And it looks like it'll be drying out toward the later part of the week and should be a dry day as you go into the weekend. Higher pressure building just off the coast there, and high pressure in over the interior. So several sunny days, light winds, and temperatures will begin to warm up a little bit, especially over the southwest interior. As a little bit warmer air aloft comes in and get cut off from the cold air coming down from the north. That trough will be way over into the northwest territories of Canada. Another system, westerly flow, will continue to dominate the northern third of the state here. So it looks like some IFR will come back onto the coastline Thursday afternoon here for those western areas, but VFR down to the south, and then that weak front pushing a little bit of light rain, fog, that sort of thing into the eastern Aleutians, and still some leftover moisture here, but not a bad day. Winds will be pretty light in the 10 to 15 knot range there from Kodiak Island or west of Kodiak Island. It'll probably be light and variable there with another sunny day in store for that area, as well as the North Gulf Coast. So again, looking at temperatures slowly start to head back toward normal, especially on the high temperatures, maybe going a little above normal toward the weekend and into Saturday, but the low temperatures will take a little longer to catch up. And for temperatures this afternoon, upper 30s to lower 40s, most areas here of the southeast coast, with mid 30s along the North Gulf Coast. Much chillier than yesterday, upper 20s to mid 30s here over south central Alaska, with 36 at Gulkana, 31 Talkeetna, and a 14 at Fairbanks, 15 over at Delta. Manly at 13, while Tanana had 4. Up at Bettles, 7 degrees above zero. Bananatuvik, -9. And again, well below zero up here over the north slope in the Arctic coast. Point Hope at -2. 5 degrees Kotzebue, that 0 is at Selawik. 1 above over at Shishmaref, and 11 at Nome. 16 at Gamble and Savunga, with 9 degrees there at St. Michael. 10 at Unalakleet. 11 degrees at St. Mary's. McGrath had 15, while Bethel down the river there had 17, 16 at Macoriac, and out over the southwest areas, upper 30s for the Alaska Peninsula, mid 20s for the Bristol Bay area, lower 40s though over the central Aleutians. And for the lows tonight, again 20 to 30 below up here over the northwest interior, with the light winds and clear skies, with -20s again out to the Arctic coast and even into the northern Seward Peninsula. Below zero readings down in across the Yukon Delta, but the plus side is 0 down into Bristol Bay to near 20, say at Pilot Point. Near freezing for the peninsula, near 40 there, upper 30s for the central Aleutians. And cooling off a little bit here over the northern southeast coast as some cooler air begins to spill into the northern areas, but staying quite mild down to the south. And for highs tomorrow, 40s or upper 30s to lower 40s here to mid 40s in some cases over the southern panhandle, otherwise mid 30s to near 40 along the North Gulf Coast areas. Teens and 20s up over the interior, below zero for the North Slope and Arctic coast. IFR spreading back in over the southern areas tomorrow, and then possibly advancing northward in the afternoon, again depending on the exact track of that low center, which actually may be a little bit farther to the south, in which case this pattern would look pretty good. Lingering areas IFR in the early morning hours, and then that tending to clear out through the afternoon as that area moisture continues to leave the state. And then some more moisture, but not coming anywhere close to the southwest coastline here. This will all be out to the west and across the Aleutians and Bering Sea. Passes Anatuvik, marginal, becoming VFR. Same upward trend anticipated for Adigan as well. Lake Clark and Merrill, rainy, all VFR tomorrow, as well as windy, and Isabel should start out marginal, but possibly becoming, always takes about 5 map advances to get to windy here. And okay, VFR there, Isabel, marginal VFR, becoming VFR, trending upward. Tanita, just go VFR. Mentasta, same as Isabel. And for Portage, VFR. Chilkoot and White, possibly becoming IFR late in the day. And then again, maybe just holding at marginal. And wait for the next map to come along here. There we go. Freezing levels. Again, at the surface, colder conditions in over the northern panhandle, but a surge northward ahead of the next system, and a little bit milder out over the Aleutians. And for icing threats, again, mostly with the storm track here over the southeast coast, especially over the southern areas, could be some moderate rime icing. Again, below 12,000 feet, spotty stuff here over the southeast Bering, and then a little bit greater threat, but nothing too serious over the Aleutians. And we're looking at low pressure beginning to pull away and into the Yukon, followed by some good high pressure out here that's going to bring the clear skies all the way to the eastern border probably by tomorrow evening. The main jet just to the south of the panhandle, so that low will be tracking just on the north side of that jet, as well as the next one. Then high pressure builds in toward the weekend. Here's the upper low at 9,000 feet, 3,000 feet northwesterlies, nothing too serious at all. Good high pressure along the coast, and the low, the Aleutian low, staying out to the west. And for turbulence, possible severe, that'll probably be more down toward the Queen Charlottes, but not much expected up to the north, and just some mechanical turbulence here over the southeast interior. Central eastern Alaska range, western Prince William Sound in those areas, and maybe a little bit of isolated moderate chop for the central Aleutians. And after the break, I'll return with the marine forecasts.
In Valdez, all the waves were locally generated. Tremendous land movement during the quake initially caused the water to literally stand up and collapse into town. Then, 93 million cubic yards of glacial deposits under the dock area slumped and generated a 30 to 40 foot wave. Freddie Christopherson, then 13, described what he saw.
Danny Feeks and I went down on the dock to see the boat unload, and then we were leaving. Earthquake started, and then Danny and I ran. I looked back and I saw the boat go up, and then it took off, and then I saw the dock go up, and then we kept running up to Stiff's Motors. I got a ride with some guy in a panel. We went out to 6 Mile Hill. Then we waited for a while. Then we went back in.
4 decades later, that memory remains burned into Fred Christopherson's soul.
It was the biggest, blackest wave that I'd ever seen. I was turning around watching it with my little buddy hollering at me up the road here, "Run, run, don't look, run."
I looked back and I saw the ship. It was about 30 feet out of the water, and the stern was in the air, and the bow was pointing right down into the water, and I could see the prop slowly turning and water coming off of it.
Great big crevasse opened up, and I didn't know if I was going to make it.
The longshoremen and the visitors that were on the dock running this way, trying to get to the shore, and it broke away from the shore, and they ran this way to go to the boat to look for some protection, and there just wasn't any protection. They just, finally the dock all busted up and they all disappeared, never to be seen again.
They were gone in just a moment.
I just couldn't imagine the people that were on the dock and what they the last minutes of their lives and how they must have suffered knowing what was going to happen.
A short time later, at the far end of Port Valdez, the Chute Bay glacial moraine above and below the waterline avalanched and collapsed into the bay. It generated a 220-foot wave. It was the tallest wave recorded anywhere during the '64 quake. Delbert Ferrier and his father were in a skiff a short distance away when the monster passed by.
That's when I saw it wipe out, take all the concrete off the light, wipe that out, and go over the top of that little island and go in front of us, and it was starting to break on top. So, but we were just getting the big rollers. We were going up and down, you know, not knowing what the hell was going to happen. And this missed us. We got more of the roller part. Had we been back there, well, you know, it was gone.
By the time this wave reached Valdez, it was still 40 feet high, but it did the greatest damage to the town. In the years following the disaster, Valdez was rebuilt on more solid ground about 3 miles away. Tsunamis are created by the sudden displacement of water, usually caused by very powerful earthquakes that violently change the elevation of the seafloor. Tsunamis also can be caused by above or underwater landslides, which are often generated by earthquakes. Though far less likely, tsunamis may also be caused by the eruption of submarine volcanoes, meteor impacts, or nuclear explosions. When a tsunami is generated in the open ocean, the water is so deep that the wave is barely detectable, maybe no more than a foot high at the surface. But it can travel across the ocean at jetliner speeds of 500 to 600 miles per hour. As that same wave reaches shallower water, it will slow down to about 1/10 of the speed and may grow more than 10 times in height. If the lower part of the wave reaches shore first, the incoming surge may actually be preceded by water flowing out to sea, exposing the ocean bottom or emptying channels and even huge bays. Most think that a tsunami appears as an enormous cresting wave, but in fact, most tsunamis come in as a fast-moving surge of water, like a monster high tide in fast motion. In addition to the 1964 tsunamis, two other tsunami events in Alaska stand out. In 1958, the highest tsunami recorded in modern history occurred in Lituya Bay in southeast Alaska. An earthquake dislodged a huge chunk of a mountain, which crashed into the bay. The impact created a wave that splashed 1,700 feet up a mountainside, completely denuding a slope of all trees and soil. One fisherman was killed when the wave swept his boat out to sea. In 1946, a strong earthquake in the Aleutian Islands that probably generated an underwater landslide created a huge tsunami that wiped out the Scotch Cap Lighthouse, perched 40 feet above sea level. 5 people were killed. This same wave traveled silently and undetected across the Pacific Ocean to the Hawaiian Islands, where it killed another 159 unsuspecting people. It was this disaster that led to the formation of the Pacific Tsunami Warning Center.
The U.S. National Tsunami Hazard Mitigation Program is the educational program in which communities are advised that they in fact live in an area in which tsunamis might be expected sometime in the future to attack, and to educate the population that in fact there may not be much warning time.
In this particular program, it's a partnership between 3 agencies, U.S. Geological Survey, seismologist expertise, NOAA, which is oceanographic expertise, and FEMA, which is mitigation expertise. So those are the 3 partners that are working on the federal side. On the state side is the 5 states affected. That's Alaska and Hawaii, Washington, Oregon, and California.
Here at UEF, at the Geophysical Institute, we are involved in 3 of the aspects of this national program. Those consist of warning, risk assessment, and risk mitigation. The warning aspect that we participate in, it uses seismology.
At the Geophysical Institute, scientists monitor earthquake data from several hundred seismic sensing stations across Alaska. When a seismic disturbance occurs, this data is instantly transmitted to the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration's West Coast and Alaska Tsunami Warning Center in Palmer, Alaska. Scientists on 24-hour call quickly analyze that data, along with data from their own network of sensors, and decide whether or not they should issue a tsunami warning.
When we see a large earthquake has occurred and it's occurred near the coast, we'll issue a warning to those who could be affected by the wave within a certain amount of time. And then we'll monitor the wave to see if it really was dangerous or not, and if it was dangerous, then we'll expand the warning to all the people that it may be dangerous for.
Welcome back. We'll look for possible gale force winds down here along the extreme south coast. Lighter conditions back to the north here, and maybe small craft advisories over the southern inner channels. And then as the next system rolls up a little further to the south and weaker, maybe only some small craft advisories on the extreme south coast. Light variable winds. Could get an outflow wind for a short period of time there, maybe about 20 knots. Could be higher gusts tomorrow night and Thursday morning there for Lincoln Island, Glacier Bay, but otherwise light winds. And for the western Gulf Coast, northwest winds 20 knots, Prince William Sound 20 knots at times in areas with a few higher gusts. And then maybe early in the day some brief small craft advisory level northwesterlies still blowing from the Barren Islands back up toward Augustine Island. Otherwise pretty light there for Kodiak Island. And light variable winds everywhere here in the area for Thursday, really laying down northeast, maybe up to 15, and that's about it. For the Bristol Bay zone, light northeasterlies, light variable winds across the Alaska Peninsula. That'll extend back up toward Kodiak Island. And looking at Thursday here, a little more southeasterly, but nothing strong at all. Barely a breeze with 15-knot winds and lighter yet back to the west. For the Aleutians, south-southeast or southeast here, 20 to 25 knots, maybe some small craft advisories ahead of that weakening front, just in advance of that weakening front there for the central Aleutians. And then on Thursday, that same pattern more or less holding here for the central areas, behind the low, north-northwesterlies and light southeasterlies at 15 for the Fox Islands. Along the coast, easterlies 10 to 15 knots, strongest here south of Nunivak Island. And small craft advisories, 25 knots with more of a southeast direction there for the Pribilofs, and then more southeast on the direction here, but pretty light and very light easterlies continuing across the northern Bering Sea and St. Lawrence Island. For the Arctic coast, light variable stuff here in the west to possibly as high as 20 knots there in the east. And the outlook for Thursday, about the same, light variable winds here for the Chukchi Sea, westerlies, light southwest with that disturbance coming in, could kick up to 15 knots, becoming more southerly here along the eastern coast and the central coast. For tonight, high pressure in over the area up there, so look for another night of 20 to 30 below temperatures with light winds. Clear skies and chilly conditions all the way down into Bristol Bay. And then again, the clouds on the decrease, the flurries ending as well, with showers tapering off over the panhandle until the next surge of moisture brings more rain in tomorrow with the possibility of some gales along the south coast. And still hanging on, especially early in the day here, but this whole area will be clearing out and moving away as high pressure to the west grabs up the whole scene by tomorrow night and into Thursday. You can see no gradient, so no wind, but lots of sunshine from Kodiak, Bristol Bay, even Prince William Sound northward, but another disturbance, again, bringing mostly IFR in areas there, a pretty extensive area of it in that westerly flow. Have a great evening.
These forecasts are to be used for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
The National Weather Service.